next day, I was still reeling from my conversations with Ben and the real Angelica. I ran it over in my head so many times. Like, maybe the police made a mistake. So of course I'd never spoken to this woman. She was the wrong Angelica. But no, I knew everything about her. Someone systematically deceived me for 2 years. And someone had been recording a house I was going to move into for 20 years. And someone had recorded me when I was a boy. What happened 20 years ago to cause all this? It was so insane. I started questioning everything. I felt I was being watched constantly. I started to wonder if my mom remembered anything. She saw me more than anyone at the time, naturally. When I called her up, she said she was expecting me to call. I generally didn't call during the week, so I asked why. She said because of my little prank. I grew concerned immediately. I wasn't pranking anyone. I tried to calmly ask her what prank. She said the 2 guys. They showed up with a note for me to let them in. They don't say anything or do anything. They've just been sitting there, with their chairs pulled together, in her kitchen. Just looking at the floor. You don't recognize them at all? I asked her. She laughed and said no, but I think she was starting to realize I didn't know what was going on. They're dressed in costumes, she said, almost as an afterthought. I told her to calmly get out of the house and call the police, because I didn't have anything to do with this. She said she was upstairs. She'd have to go past them to get out. I told her to keep me on the phone until she got out. I listened carefully. It seemed to be taking forever. Finally she said, "They're gone." The front door was left open. I told her to call the police right away and check in with me in a bit. While talking, I had absent-mindedly walked from my office to my own kitchen. My front door was also left open. Not only was it locked just a moment ago, but it seemed like quite a coincidence. I closed the door and locked it. Then I looked all around the house with a kitchen knife in hand. I have a 1-story with a basement, so it was easy enough to cover all hiding places. Fortunately, there was nobody. So I tried to tell myself I just didn't close the door right. Until my neighbor came over and asked me if I was having a costume party. I said no. That's when he told me he saw 2 guys in costumes leaving my home. They just walked straight across the road and behind the neighbor's house, into the woods. "How can they even see in the woods at night?" he asked. I picked up my mother and we went to the police station. I figured this one would be best in person. All these strange events barely seemed coherent. But I got the feeling it was all connected in some way. The police were baffled. They admitted someone was harassing me. But without more evidence, there was really nothing they could do. When we were making the report, my mom told me she was thinking about something just after this happened. Because it struck her as odd. Do you remember how you had this dial-up modem and when you'd run it, you could swear you'd hear a little voice inside talking to you? The way she said it, like it was nothing, sent a shiver through me. Because I didn't remember that at all. "What?" was all I could say. This is what she said. "Yes, you'd said it ago, and in all the beeps and pops you said there was a little voice in there with a message. To me it was a lot of crazy noise. But you made me get real close and listen. And you told me it was saying, 'Everything's better in here.' Abracadabra. Can't believe I even remembered that." I told her I couldn't remember that. That sounds crazy. But she just gave me a blank stare. I thought maybe she was concerned. So I started to tell her about what was happening. The whole Angelica thing. so she'd understand. I was saying, you remember that girl I used to chat with online in the 90s, Angelica? She kept giving me a blank stare, like she couldn't understand me. So I told her more. How I met her on the Webbering My Fortune City page was on. And didn't she remember my homepage at least? She shook her head. What she said next scared me in a way I've never been scared before. She told me she got an internet connection after I left for college to email me. But before that we never ever had the internet in our home. I said she must have gotten hit in the head. Because I remember distinctly all these experiences being online. Building my homepage. YIFNet. IRC. ICQ. All of that was when I was in high school. She flat denied it. She said she remembered, though, that I used to tell her I'd found a way to get into the internet without a connection. I'd have to call some number with my modem. Then I'd have to sit still at the screen for a few minutes. Something like that. She always thought I was joking. Before Detective Veralt came to get us, she looked into my eyes. You should be careful on that internet, you know, she said. A lot of bad things on there. She rose to shake the detective's hand. I was grateful to get off the subject. The detective offered to have a friend in computer forensics take a look at some of the sites I'd reported. But he didn't have much hope. After I got back home, I secured the house one more time. Then I got to work. The best lead I had at that point was this Holy Moses character. So I downloaded MIRC to see if I could find him in his old hunts. It had been a long time since I'd used MIRC. I barely remembered how it worked. And there are so many channels on EFNet, it would take forever. So, I decided to focus on channels that would have been relevant to Angelica back in the day. I just started asking in channels, like at Gothic and at Vampires, if anyone knew of Holy Moses or heard of him. But each time I mentioned him, the channel fell to almost complete silence. I didn't get a yes or a no, I got ignored. Sometimes users even started to leave the channel. I was about to give up and try another avenue when I got a private message from U47284U. He, or she, told me I shouldn't be doing what I was doing. I asked him why. He said it doesn't come off well to them, whatever that means. He also said Holy Moses is just a bot. It's been around forever, never logs off, and is almost always idling for days at a time. I told him if that was true, why was everyone so reluctant to talk about it? I didn't want to tell him Angelica's story. I just wanted to find out what he knew. He said the whole thing weirds people out because nobody knows who built Holy Moses. Nobody. Over decades, no one has ever claimed ownership. Not even trolls. Nobody knows where it came from. Or why it's there. It doesn't do anything. It's just there, he said. That's the creepiest thing about it. Always just there. Legends had built up around Holy Moses, he said. Like it was a government supercomputer monitoring IRC. Or it was the KGB. Or a ghost, a bot left running long after the owner died and his bank account kept paying the bills. But no one knows. It was just there. Users tried messaging it and it never responded. It never interacts in any channel. It offers no services. It has moments of apparent activity where it's no longer idle, but no one's been able to detect what it does during this time. Except occasionally a change of channel, seemingly at random. He said there was only one time when it did anything substantial, as far as anyone knew. Once in over 2 decades. and that only made things weirder. I was typing out a message to ask this guy what it was, because he wasn't saying. But just then I heard what sounded like my front door slam. I paused and listened carefully, trying not even to breathe. I didn't hear anything. So I rushed out to the front door. Nobody was there, nothing disturbed. The doors were all closed and locked. I chalked it up to nerves and went back to my office. When I got back, U47284U had sent me a message. Where'd you go? Hope nothing strange happened. That was a little eerie. But I was focused on getting answers, so I ignored it and asked what it was Holy Moses did. He said, "Fine, I'll tell you." And this is what he said happened. In 1999, at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time on November 21st, Holy Moses joined the channel #Ornithology and made a series of short statements. First, deceive them at 7 a.m., empty it at 9 a.m., abandon them at 6 p.m. Turn back at 9 p.m. and have it your way just before midnight. Then it went offline until January 5th. Why, he asked. Why be silent and useless for years, do that, and then never do anything after? Sometimes, when he really thought about it, he said, it gave him the serious heebie-jeebies. That was all he knew. Or anyone knew. And he reiterated that I really shouldn't be looking into this and to just drop it. I thanked him for his help. I remembered a little more of what commands the MIRC had after getting into the groove some. So I tried a whois on Holy Moses to see if he was out there. He was. Or it was. It was on one channel only, #StillLife. It had been signed on for 16 days and idle for 3. Its IP was showing only the letter Y. I was thinking about going to the channel and messaging him to see what would happen. But I suddenly got another message from U47284U. I told you to drop it.